right now, Dagath in Warframe is amazing. A crit machine with 90% uptime on invincibility, not to mention that she can now have an additional 15k overguard in case that invincibility drops off. So the quick version of how this works is Dagath can now stay invincible in her spectral form for a long time in missions. When she pops out of that invincibility phase, she can cast one of her abilities to get rid of the cooldown for it, and then she can cast her spectral form again and jump straight back into that invincibility. While invincible, she will spread her doom effect and deal huge amounts of crit damage to all of the enemies affected by it, and dealing damage to Eximus units if you want to will give her a maximum of 15k overguard as well. That's the short version of the build setup that I'm running in this video, but the long version is she is still a Warframe who can slow enemies, who can strip armor, who can provide countless health orbs for you and your teammates, can spread her doom effect to literally everyone, which then deals a portion of the damage that she's already dealt back onto them again. But now the best part is she can sit for long periods of time in that invincible mode while dealing up to a huge percentage of bonus crit damage to everyone that's already affected by that doom debuff, which, like I said, will be pretty much every enemy in front of you, not to mention the viral that she also deals with her abilities as well. And when that invincibility phase runs out, she can simply cast a fourth ability, which is her horses, or cavalry, which will then kill a load of enemies and then will refresh her grave spirit ability and allow her to jump into that invincibility again. And it all works thanks to her new grave spirit augment called Spectral Spirit. Now, her grave spirit ability itself without the augment will boost her crit damage and is her get out of jail ability, so it stops her from taking a fatal blow and it puts her into a spectral form instead. While in this spectral form, she is invincible to incoming damage, and every kill guarantees a health orb on drop, so loads of red candy, while also increasing her crit damage against enemies and then increasing her crit damage even more against enemies affected by her doom debuff. I think on my current build, I deal about 130% bonus crit damage on normal enemies, but 273% bonus crit damage on enemies that have the doom debuff on them, which, like I said, will be everyone. So bringing a crit-based weapon is going to deal huge chunks of damage, which is why I've brought my Incarnate Torrid as my primary and my Incarnate Toxicist as my secondary. I'm not really using a melee weapon with this setup, but you of course can. Now, this new augment, Spectral Spirit, will put Dagath into her spectral form as soon as you cast it, so she doesn't need that fatal blow to make her invulnerable. You simply just cast it, while also making all of her weapons and abilities apply the doom debuff to enemies. Kills when you exit the spectral form once its duration is up will decrease the ability's cooldown before you can cast it again by 1 second per kill. My build has 15 seconds of invulnerability and a 25-second cooldown before I can cast it again once those 15 seconds is up. But one simple cast of her cavalry, which is her horses, into a group and the cooldown is gone and I'm recasted and I'm invulnerable again. Cavalry does hit incredibly hard and also passes through walls and other objects while also stripping enemy armor, so it won't start to fall off damage-wise or kill-wise for a few hundred levels on Steel Pat. But it's not just that. Because her augment also now applies doom to all enemies with her weapons and abilities, it means that you are now free, if you want to, only if you want to subsume off her doom ability and pop something else in there instead, since you will be applying doom with other sources. So you could put a different ability in there, like Breach Surge, like Nourish, like Gloom, like Tharos Strike, like Ensnare. The list goes on. But remember, subsumed abilities will also now apply doom as well. So if it's an ability that will hit an enemy, then it should apply doom. And doomed enemies will take increased crit damage from all sources. What is probably one of the best subsumes right now in the game for any frame, and especially for Dagath with this ability, since you're going to be looking at enemies to get doom on them, would be Jade's Ophanum Eyes. It strips all defenses in a 70-degree cone, not just armor. It slows enemies up to 90%, and it also deals heat damage. But with Dagath, it will also apply doom at everything that you are looking at, which is what I wanted to do, because doomed enemies will be taking nearly 300% bonus crit damage from me from weapons that already hit incredibly hard. Now, with Jade's ability subsumed on, she will have 2 separate slows, which is complete overkill, so ignore the slow, it doesn't really matter. Her Weird Scythes, which is her first ability, will also be giving a 95% slow, and you'll have Jade's Eyes as backup in case you haven't got Weird Scythes cast. Not that in my footage the Verglass is freezing everything solid anyway, so the slows don't really matter. I want it more for the defense strip and for applying doom in a frontal cone in front of me at everything that I am shooting at. But that's pretty much her new augment explained. This is the build that I've settled on for testing in this footage. With a few different times I've ran different missions. I've settled on Combat Discipline for the aura, which will make me lose 10 health on a kill, but it will also trigger the Arcane Avenger that I've got equipped, which will give me 45% bonus crit chance, Power Drift, Blind Rage and Umbral Intensify for power strength, Continuity for duration, Adaptation for status reduction, Equilibrium because she's going to be dropping a lot of health orbs, her augment Spectral Spirit to keep me in that spectral form as long as possible, Flow for energy capacity, and of course Stretch for some additional range. Now you could put Brief Respite into the aura if you wanted to, or you could put Cunning Drift into the Drift mod slot if you wanted to instead for a bit more range with the Ophinum Eyes in order to slow enemies and add that doom effect to them. Entirely up to you, mod however you want. If you don't have the primed versions of these mods, you can mod with the normal versions. Just get, I guess, as close to the stats as you possibly can and test it and see what your survivability is like. Dagath has got incredible survivability. You will be spending a lot of time in the spectral form, Invincible. When you exit that spectral form, just cast her fourth ability to get rid of the cooldown, and then cast her Grave Spirit again to jump back into that invincibility. Now, having a weapon, maybe like the Tenet Glaxian or like the Incarnate Torrid, which will arc to multiple enemies and cause them all to blow up, will also rapidly decrease the cooldown on her Grave Spirit. Now, Adaptation, Brief Respite or even Arcane Blessing might not be needed and might seem like a little bit overkill since you will be spending a lot of time in that invulnerability phase, but they come in handy if you're out of the invulnerability phase and you get hit hard by a nullifier or something else. And I tend to lean more into the tanky side with my builds a lot of the time. Now, as for the 15k overguard, which is totally overkill for this setup, I was using the new arcane from the clan event called Secondary Fortifier, which gives overguard when you deal damage to an Eximus unit's overguard up to a maximum of 15,000, but I'll do a separate video on that. It does work incredibly well with the dual Toxicist. This is my dual Toxicist build, and it is built for crit chance, crit damage, and of course for blast as well. And of course, the Incarnate dual Toxicist has got that chain linking ability where dealing damage to one enemy will hit several enemies around it once they're close enough. Not to mention, headshots will increase its fire rate as well. Blast damage, however, on it with this arcane really helps gaining that overguard against Eximus units, especially if there's more than one beside each other, because the blast explosions are going to, I guess, rapidly give you that overguard. Now, this is the Incarnate Torrid, which I was also using for some of the footage as well. Again, it is corrosive, it is blast with crit mods and a crit Riven, but the Riven is total overkill. You will kill just fine without it. But that pretty much is Dagath with her new incredible augment, Spectral Spirit. Easily one of the best additions with the Jade Shadows update, especially if, like me, you're someone who really enjoys Dagath, since her name is kind of derived from an old Irish Celtic god. And she is kind of all about death and being kind of badass. Actually quite fucking edgy when you think about it. But that's Dagath. Let me know in the comment section below what you think of her augment. Let me know what you think of Dagath if you tried her with this augment. Have a great day, and as always, thanks for watching.